Today I'm going to be reviewing a trail camera. They call it a dual camera system by HAPIMP. The model number of PH770-8D. And the claim to fame for this unit is it's two separate cameras that are built into it. One is a normal high definition camera for daytime, and the other is a night camera that goes up to 8P. It uses a one motion detection. It goes to 90 degrees, and each of these go, I think the nighttime is 100 degrees and the daytime is at 90 degrees. So it's not the wider view of 120, which also has a little bit of distortion when that happens too. So your LEDs there's 48 along inside of here. There are low glow, which means a little bit of a pink glow to them. They're not invisible. Animals don't seem to really care that much. I'm really impressed with this latch that's on here. You can do it with one hand if you need to, but look how robust that is. Lately we've been getting a lot of the smaller latches in here. And here it's set up to where you can put 8 batteries. It can do up to 8, but it can run on 4 also. I've been running it on solar, so I really only use these as backup right here. And wonderful, easy to use buttons that detent very firmly on here. Here's the SD card. It's a micro SD card that goes up to 512. I have a 32 in here right now. USB. This also lets you go out with the supplied cable to a TV if you want to, and you use the functions that are on here as if you're looking through your screen. I find that kind of handy. It's kind of nice. I've been using, a lot of people don't use the USB to swap out the cards. I've been using it because I bring my cameras in every night since I use them locally, and I'm finding out it really reduces down the wear and tear on the card for the little fingers and everything in there. So a little bit more reliable for using the USB. While I'm at it, it comes with the usual thing of the bolting into a tree or such like that. It's pretty sturdy on there, good hardware. Also, if you want to wrap it around to a tree, it has the slots along in here. It has one slot on the bottom right here for using this device here. It also comes with a book. It's quite thick on here, but the first 28 pages are in English. It also comes in German, Italian, French, and Spanish. 28 pages of it, so it's pretty thorough. I want to show another thing that's really kind of nice. I'm not going to go through everything this camera does in here, but I'm just going to go through the things that might help you decide if you want to buy this camera yourself, because most of it is the same as every other camera you've seen. But one of the things I thought was really kind of nice is when we just put this into test mode, you notice that besides this lighting up right here, so do the buttons. So you can see that a little easier. The buttons themselves light up, which is really, really nice. When I was doing some of the review things of changing the settings on here, it was really nice to be able to do it outside and then change it back and forth. And I will have many videos and still shots that I took so that we make some comparisons and some input that I'll put into what I thought worked out best for me. This camera does a couple of neat things, like the time-lapse mode that's in here. You can use it as a different resolution than you do for your other type of camera things. I thought that was really kind of interesting on here. When you do your burst, you can do up to 3 at a time. This has such fast detection, oftentimes you'll see the entering of the animal right at the edge of it. That's how fast this is. And I'm going to show you a video later on I took in my backyard of my surveillance cam watching what this camera does, and you'll see that essentially the video starts almost as soon as the LEDs come on. Other cameras I had, there's a huge delay. This is almost instant. I was very impressed. In fact, it's the fastest camera I have that does that. Let's get into some of the other specifics on here. The day video goes from 4K to 2K, 1080, and then 720, and a couple below that, which most people are going to involve unless you're really needing a lot more space in your card. The problem is that the 4K is going to be at 10 frames per second, so it's going to be a little bit jerky if that's what you're using. The 2.7K is at 20 frames and the 1080 at 30. Now, what's other interesting is the 720 is at 30, but also there's a version of it that you can do at 60 frames per second. And I'll be showing you the differences in the videos that I'll show later on. The night video has 4 different settings, but it's best just go ahead and put it at 1080, and it doesn't do the differences of 30 to 60. So everything's at 30 frames per second, which I thought was really nice. The day photos are at 5, 8, 12, 20, and 32 megapixels. The night photos are at 2, 5, and 8 megapixels. Preferably, I use the 8 for the night, unless you're really needing the space on your card. We'll be going in, I'll show you the difference between the 12, 20, and 32 in the photos on there to see if there's enough of a difference for you to want to go to the larger size. The video length can be anywhere from 3 seconds to 59 seconds, or from 1 minute, and in 1 minute increments up to 10 minutes. The detection range, I believe I told you on here, was basically to 90. I have this in test mode, so that's why it's flashing like that. The which is a little bit narrow. It kind of prevents a little bit of the extraneous things triggering it. Also, these tend to light the very front of the area that it's looking at, not much off to the sides. It's kind of like just almost like a spot into the middle of it. That's an advantage in certain circumstances, but at a distance, you're not going to see the peripheries. You'll see in the middle better, perhaps. Maybe it's going further, I can't really say, but to the side, you're not going to see it as much, as you'll see with some of the cameras that are designed to actually go for 120. Another function that the camera has is has endless capture, and that's kind of like your dash cams, where basically it'll just go all the way to the end of filling up your SD card, and then start recording over again. So it's going to erase what's on there if you don't get to it before it reaches the end of the card. I just go ahead and turn that off. Some people use it for security. They just leave it on. They just kind of want to see what happened in the last several hours. They're not really concerned what happened a month earlier. So let's go ahead and see what those videos look like, then we'll come back to looking at the camera. Here's a test to see how fast the trigger speed is. I have a surveillance camera watching the trail camera, and you can see the light turns on just as that coyote gets right to that area. Here you have a replay right here again. Hard to believe how fast this is. This is an audio test from about 10 feet away. Also, there's some background noise of mowers. Let's see what happens when we get this video back. Did a test of the 30 frames per second and the 60 frames per second, and I really couldn't see anything when I took still shots from them and actually blew them out. I didn't really see much of a difference between the two. Here is the 4K side. Now you can see how jerky it is because it's at 10 frames per second. Here the 2K is at 20 frames per second, a little smoother. The 1080 to 30 frames per second, you can see the plants moving easily. 32 MP, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of improvement. 20 MP, you can see the light seems to be playing a part in here. Here's 12 MP. The motion detection caught me just as I was going in there, and again 1080 AP. Here 1080 AP at night, and you can see that it's very smooth, but also the light is right in the middle. Same for the photo. Let's go over the pros and cons, starting off with the cons. First of all, there is a narrow LED for the night videos. I'm not sure what the purpose of having the light concentrated in the middle and avoiding seeing things to the side, but there might be some advantage that I'm not aware of, but this unit has that. Also, the resolution above 1080p, I didn't really notice much of a difference other than a larger file size. When I zoomed in on the photos and the videos, I saw increased graininess, which just led me to believe that it was just a 1080p that was increased somehow. I'm not going to use that. Maybe they needed to be more light for the daytime in order to do that, but I didn't see any kind of advantage for that at all. And also, while we're talking about that, the 720 at 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second, I tried to find a difference between the two by freeze framing and blowing it up, and I didn't see any difference between those two either. The videos above 1080p, which is only done for the daytime videos, started lowering the frames per second all the way down to 10 frames per second at the highest level. Most people are not going to use that. It's very jerky. And for as far as the trail camera is concerned and the videos, I'm going to be using the 1080p anyway. So it wasn't really a problem for me because I got full frame, 30 frames per second for the 1080p videos. Now the pros, ultra fast trigger speed. I was very surprised about that. Sometimes you can get away with a fast trigger speed for a photo, but usually video is sometimes 10 times longer. This was just amazingly fast. I was very impressed with that. Because of the dual lens system, it has silent infrared shutter. So basically it just switches over electronically to a different camera inside, and rather than having a shutter click across the lens. I have not really seen that being too much of a problem with animals, but maybe if you're using it for detecting bad guys, they might hear a click. It comes out to be an advantage. Some people do claim that the animals are spooked by it. I haven't seen that much, but this is a very welcome improvement. There's a robust latch on the side of the unit that you can actually close the camera with one hand, which comes very handy out in the field. Also, it's very strong. Lately, a lot of the cameras we're seeing have rather flimsy side small latches, which on a couple occasions I found, probably due to fatigue being in the sunlight, they actually failed on me. This I doubt will ever fail. I was very surprised and appreciated the lighted keys. As I was going through the testing of the unit outside, it was easy for me to reprogram the camera in complete darkness because the keys themselves were lit up. There are many features that come with this camera, like endless capture. This is kind of similar to a dash cam, to where it just goes through the complete memory and just starts recording over the oldest files first. This would come in handy if you let the camera run all the time and you show up at a place and you want to see what happened over the last 8 hours or something like that. This comes in really handy for doing that type of thing. You don't really see it on very many other cameras. This camera can take up to 512 gigabyte cards. Now, it's probably due to the fact that it can take 32 megapixel pictures and such, which really eats up your cards. And also, you can stay in the field a lot longer also. One of the sweetest parts of this, they include a 32 gigabyte card with the camera. The next thing was the impressive night video. The contrast and sharpness was superb. The last but not the least were the promotions. It's frequent to see coupons added onto your Amazon site to where sometimes you can get this unit for almost half price. So be on the outlook for those. As always, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to help you. Put them in the comment section below. Please remember to subscribe and share this video to help disabled animals with donated wheelchairs.